Winning in life also means winning in business, which is why I have this rule. True Mofos, welcome back to another episode of Winning Standards. Today, Wednesday, we're talking about how to raise your standards in life. Now, I have a couple of rules that I use in business and in life that has helped me to live a pretty fulfilling life. And I want to share them with you because I think if you adopt some of these, it might change the way you operate in both business and in life. So last week I did a post on my Instagram page and I was talking about how I perceive value in others and what they bring to the table. And I see this all the time because there are these things called networking events. And normally networking events are just full of a bunch of card fuckers who walk in there who look like a gyrating hand with a card on the end of it. And they jam their gyrating hand in front of other people, giving them their business card. And they think that that's networking. Networking is relationship building. And the best networkers are the best relationship builders. Some of the best people that I've ever found that build the best networks are people in pubs. So in Australia, we have pubs, which are essentially bars, more probably the dive bar sort of scene that you would associate with American dive bars, but we call them pubs in Australia. And what you'll find is there's always that old guy in there, and the old guy talks to everybody. He knows everything about everybody. And if you need to know something or somebody, he's the guy to go to. That's a networker. Great networkers aren't there building their business. They're there building relationships. And they're the best networkers. So what I find is that when most people go into networking events or they go to network with people, the first thing that they're thinking about is what do I get, not what do I give. And so they go into these groups trying to get something. And a lot of the messages I get messages and emails from people saying, hey, I know you know a lot of people. Do you know anyone who can help you with X? The answer is normally no. The reason why I don't give away my networks is I have billions of dollars worth of contacts on my phone for everything from property developers to musicians to global DJs to professional athletes to a lot of my community. And the answer is no. In fact, I had someone ask me the other day, they said, can you introduce me to this person? And I said no. They actually asked me because this person wanted to take photos of this person's cars and all that type of stuff. And they said, I've been trying to get in contact with them for a while. I know that you know them. Can you give me their details so that I can give them a call? And I said, no, that's not how it works. The reason why I do that is you got to protect your networks. Those networks are your net worth. They're the people who are going to add value to your life in some way, shape or form. And so I've always held those networks in high regards. And I go into them to help. I go into those networks to give. What can I give? How can I help these people? And because of that, I now have great relationships where I can call anybody any time of the day and most people will pick up their phone. A little while ago, I was working on some sales challenges with my team and they were asking me some questions. And I said, I already know the person who can help us. They've built a sales team and that sales team does $30 or $40 million a year in sales. Absolute weapon of a salesperson. I just picked up my phone, I called them and I put them on loudspeaker and I said, mate, can I have your time for like 15 minutes? And I asked a bunch of questions. He answered it. I said, thank you. He said, mate, we need to catch up for lunch or something. And I said, it's my shower. I'll buy you lunch. Now, most people, they wouldn't answer that phone call, right? But they answer that phone call because I go into those relationships to give, not to get. And when I do need something, they always pick up the phone because their bank's already full of the value that I've already created for them. So never network to get something, network to give something. Go and find people that you can add value to. And that's where I want to move this conversation towards is the addition of value, the value adding to others. Something else that happens quite a lot, and I speak about on the podcast, is I get messaged most days where someone will say, hey, I'd love to catch up for a coffee. And the answer is no. This was the post that I did last week that sort of triggered a few people. The answer is no. And the answer is no, because what do I get from it? I'm giving up my most valuable asset, which is time, in order to give you my second most valuable asset, which is my knowledge that's taken me 20 years to build. Right? I've spent over $3 million on mentors, coaches, study, learning, traveling the world to learn this shit. And you want to buy me a $30 lunch or a $20 lunch so that then you can pick my brain for the next hour so I can give you all the answers to the problems that you have. And that's all I get is fucking lunch. It ain't going to happen. So the answer is no. And the reason why I do that is because there's not a fair value exchange. And what I've found is that if you want to live a great life, there is two rules. Number one is there is always a value exchange taking place. If you give your time to somebody and they are taking everything from you, it's because there is an equal exchange going on there. It's just not the exchange that you notice. For example, if someone messages you and says, hey, I would love to catch up, I want to pick your brain, and you go, wow, I think I'm going to do business with these people, which I used to do. What will happen is they will take your time, they will take your knowledge, and at the end, the rest of the value is made up in the learning that you're getting about your own value. That you'll walk away from those conversations going, I feel like shit. I feel like I got taken advantage of. I didn't get anything in return. You might go, oh, it was great because I got to help someone. So sometimes I do this with young people, right? So if they're really young, maybe they're 18, 19, maybe 16, they might say, hey, look, can I take some photos of your car and come and hang out? And I'll say, yeah, all right, that's fine. The reason why I do that is because I want to inspire them. But the thing that I get from it is inspiration from those young people. So the value exchange is there. But if I get a 35-year-old business owner who's making money, building their business, and they want to pick my brain for a fucking lunch, the answer is going to be no. They should know better at 35 years of age that the person that they're going to spend time with is more valuable than just a lunch. Now, sometimes you can get away with that. When the person's business isn't built on knowledge, then yeah, that's fine. But to me, my toolkit is my knowledge. And so I have more knowledge than most people about business and human behavior and things like that, which is why I add value through my events and my seminars. I don't just walk up to someone, a mate of mine who's a mechanic, and I go, you know what, I'm just going to take your 10 millimeter and your 12 millimeter spanner and also your angle grinder, and I'm just going to take it because I just need it. And they would go fuck yourself. They're my tools. But when you have someone who's selling knowledge, it's okay to go and take their knowledge for free, which is their toolkit. It doesn't make any sense. So the thing that I learned early on is you have to protect your tools. And whatever your tools are, if you're listening to this and you're an educator, then your tool is probably knowledge or the frameworks or the system. Now you can give some of that away. Like I give a lot of free knowledge away on this podcast. But that's so that I don't have to have those lunches. I just direct people towards the podcast. If you want to go to the next level, then you come and do an event, or you come and do a seminar, or you do something where there's a fair value exchange. If you're a take person, and even sometimes I've had people in the community where they'll buy a small ticket product, let's say a $30 per month product, and they will buy that product for 6 months, and then they'll say, oh, hey, you know, I've been in the community for a while, we should catch up. The answer is still no, because the value that you've given to the business and to my vision and mission isn't enough. But there are other people who may have never done my events, but they've referred 20 people into my Odyssey program and probably made the company 300 grand, maybe even more. Those types of people, I will send them a message and say, hey, we need to catch up and go and have lunch, because I need to add value back to them because they're doing a great job to create that value exchange. So one of my rules for a great life is make sure that you're very aware of the value exchange that you're creating. If you're a plumber and you're always doing work for mates and those mates don't return that value in some way, shape, or form, then you either need to get better mates or you have to learn to see your value more and say no to them. And you quote the job. Okay? If not, then they're wasting your value. And what will end up happening is you'll have a falling out with them. This is how falling outs happen in families and with their friendship circles, because someone feels like they're getting taken advantage of, or both parties feel like they're taking advantage of because they're giving value, but they're not clear on what they want back in return. And so both parties may be giving values in different ways that they both think are important, but the other person doesn't think it's as important as the value that they're giving to them. And so relationships fall apart. So, first rule, there is always fair value exchange happening in some way, shape, or form. You just need to know what it is. Because if you're not exchanging money, and money is a form of value exchange, then the question is, what is the exchange that's going on? Sometimes you can add value to somebody. Like if I go out for lunch with a friend of mine who's in their 60s or 70s, the value that they get is they get to pass on their knowledge. And they really love that. They love sitting there and passing on knowledge. And you buy them lunch, you know, you're enthusiastic, you're energetic. It reminds them of themselves. It gives them that energy boost. They feel great about it. But that's the value exchange. And if they ever need anything from me, I'm the first person who's there to help them. Or if they go through a crisis, I'm the first person to message them. In fact, an old client of mine was in the newspaper because he was doing a hostile takeover of a company. And the media got hold of it because they use the media in a way to try to, you know, make someone look like the bad person. He wasn't the bad person. He was just doing a hostile takeover. And he was trying to sink the company in some way, shape, or form so that then he would be able to take over the company and run it how he wants to run it and grow it again. And so this was going on. Anyway, he's in the media and all that stuff. And when I saw it, called him. Mate, what do you need? Is there anything you need? How you feeling? All of that sort of stuff. That's the stuff that's the value exchange that those people want. So before you ask for anything from anyone, including their time and knowledge, figure out what the value is that they want back in return and see if you can help them. In my community, I'm happy to spend time with people who may never do my events, but you better be helping me to achieve my mission in some way, shape, or form. Send me referrals. Send people to my events. Promote my work. I guarantee I'll probably want to hang out with you because you're helping me to achieve my mission and my vision. Now, there are other people out there who I don't know what their vision and mission is, but you can sort of figure out what they're trying to achieve. Okay? If not, ask them. The second thing is that I have a rule of thumb where I rarely hang out with people who don't invest in themselves. And the reason why I have this rule of thumb is if you don't invest in yourself, it means that you don't value you. And there are a lot of business owners who they will be in crisis and I will talk to them and I'll say, here's a solution. They go, oh man, that's expensive. But it's not expensive to buy a brand new Malibu wake setter. It's not expensive to buy a jet ski. It's not expensive to buy a new motorbike. It's not expensive to upgrade your house. It's not expensive to buy tools. All of those things you buy because they're the value, not yourself. And that's the reason why you feel like shit, because you don't see the value within yourself. And that's why you don't invest in you. And most of society don't invest in themselves. And they think that happiness is external, not internal, which is the reason why they never find it. What I've found is that people who really get the value within themselves are those who live a great life. And it doesn't matter whether you have money or don't have money. This isn't a talk about money. This is a talk about value exchange. Those who value themselves invest in themselves. And there are lots of different ways that you can invest in yourself. In fact, I recommend doing all of them. You need to invest in your mindset. You need to invest in your health. You need to invest in your interpersonal relationships. You need to invest in your communication skills, right? You need to invest in looking after your family and your friends and people close to you. I guess they're interpersonal skills as well. You need to invest in your own finances and understanding how to create and generate wealth. Because if not, you will always be running on almost empty or fear financially. All of those things will help you to live a great life. And the more you start to master areas of life, the more you become a master of your life. And most people never master their lives because they're always trying to get some form of external validation because they're insecure. And they think that buying the new jet ski is going to be the thing that makes them happy, but something external from you is never going to make you happy or never fulfilled. And I was lucky that I learned this from a young age because I tried to chase external validation by having nice cars when I was younger and still feeling like shit. And feeling like I was always chasing the next thing and someone else had a better car. And so therefore I better have a better car. Because they had a better car, it means that they were more valuable than I was. I didn't realize how insecure I was. I see this happen all the time when I go to car shows and stuff like that. And you hear people commenting about cars. Or they might be around my car and commenting going, oh man, your car's so much better than mine. It's not about that. That's not what it's about, right? That's an insecurity. You're using external comparisons to try to figure out where you fit in the world. It's stupid. Don't do that. You have your own unique spot. That's your value. You need to go find it, expand it. You can't do it by comparing yourself to others because if not, you'll always be chasing something that you can never achieve. There is always going to be someone who's smarter, better looking, more intelligent, faster. You have a look at Usain Bolt, fastest man on the planet, and now there's somebody else, right? It never lasts. So it's a shitty metric for life. When you start to measure the value that you create in the world, you start to measure the time that you spend with people based on the value exchange. You go into relationships to give value, not to get value. And you start looking at the world through a lens of value exchange, even money. Money is just an exchange of value. It will amplify everything that you've got. If you're insecure now without money, I guarantee you'll be more insecure with money. That's where you meet rich dickheads. They're still insecure. I know plenty of them, right? They're fucking shit people to be around. And that's because they're always insecure. They're always trying to get an upper hand. I go into property development meetings and things like that, and there's one person trying to fuck over another person, and there's, you know, a builder not paying their tradies, and they're not paying their tradies because they're trying to withhold cash as much as they can, not because they're trying to keep a project alive, because they want to make as much money as possible. And they do it at the expense of others. Those people you don't want to be around, you don't want to work with. And so I make it a rule that I don't work with those people. They can be in my community, but I don't work with those people. I don't spend time with them, right? And I don't spend time with them because they're always going to be someone who enough's never going to be enough to them. I will give them my time. I'll give them my knowledge. I will share. I will change their fucking life. And they'll still sit there in the end and go, it's still not enough. But they do the same with all their friendships and all their relationships because they don't understand value exchange. They live in a world of need. And I've gone through this on other podcast episodes where the lowest, most primitive form that people operate out of is survival. And someone who lives in survival talks about needs all the time. I need to do this. I have to do this. I have to go to the gym. I need to make money. They're the lowest form of survival. And then above that is wants. But wants comes and goes. And so you never really get above the average. The only way you do that is by living in standards. And you live in standards when you see the world through a lens of value. How can I add value? How can I give value? How are other people giving value to me? Who gives me value in my life? Who's the one who's taking too much value? Can I have conversations with them about that and do it effectively without flipping out? And all of you know this, if you've got staff who you pay well and they underperform, the reason why that happens is because resentment is created when you feel like there is unfair value exchange. That's why when there's all this bullshit out there in the spirituality community and in the psychology industry, and it's like, it's better to give than to receive. No, it's not. If you give all the time to everybody and you don't perceive your own value, you'll get taken advantage of. And anytime people take from you too much, you create resentment. Resentment is a byproduct of unfair value exchange for an extended period of time. The moment you start to feel that, you've got to have a conversation. And so when I feel like I pay staff well, or I pay people well to do shit and they don't do it well, I have a conversation with them. I don't flip out. I just have a conversation. I say, hey, look, this is what I'm giving to you. This is what I need back in return. And this is where accountabilities come in business. If you don't have accountabilities with your team and you don't have a way of tracking and measuring progress, then you probably start to resent your team. The same thing will happen with friends. The same thing will happen with family. The same thing will happen with clients. Beautiful interpersonal relationships should happen because there's a value exchange that's going on. Now, the exchange is never fair. Sometimes you give a little bit more and sometimes you take a little bit more. Even your intimate relationship with your husband and wife or boyfriend or girlfriend is always based on give and take. Sometimes someone unpacks the dishwasher more than somebody else. But then what will happen is when they're busy or they're working or they're burnt out, the other person steps up and they unpack the dishwasher. It's not that big a deal. But if you expect that someone should do something all the time, even when they're exhausted and burnt out and you're sitting around your fat ass doing nothing, then don't be surprised if they wig out and flip out. Okay? Unless you've got a way of communicating the value exchange that you're creating, which isn't that thing. Okay? Driven mofos. Hopefully this has given something for you to think about, but shoot me a message. Hit me up on Instagram and let me know, did this help? Because most people that I come across don't view the world through value. All they know is that they're just pissed off with people or they resent people or they don't like people and they don't understand why. They also don't understand why they keep giving and then they get used and taken advantage of and abused. But it's normally an insecurity driving them to do that thing and they don't see their own value. It's also the reason why high value people might not be hanging out with you. A lot of high value people I know won't hang out with low value people, and they do it because they say, well, if you don't invest in yourself, why should I invest in you? Why would I give you my time and knowledge when you won't even pay to gain time and knowledge? Like if you can't even read a book, why would I go and spend time with you? Or if you can't do a course or an event or a seminar. Most highly successful people I know are always learning. Not everybody, but most people. Most of the highly intelligent people I know who run big businesses spend a lot of time with advisors, with mentors, with coaches and things like that. Most small business owners I meet, they think that it's stupid, it's dumb, but they're always burnt out, overworking, and they've got a garage full of shit that they don't use, that they've spent money on trying to buy some form of fulfillment, yet they won't buy it in the thing that's the most valuable asset, which is themselves. And maybe society trains them to be like that. I don't really know. I was trained to be like that until I realized at 21 my life was shit and falling apart. And the moment I invested in myself, I went, holy crap, things changed. Once I changed my mindset, holy crap, life opened up. And I was like, wow, I can do anything, I can be anything. Now I just got to find out where I'm going. What's the direction? What do I want to achieve? Driven mofos, have a great day. Keep kicking ass. If you haven't rated and reviewed this podcast, please do so on whatever platform you're on. And remember that sharing is caring. Please share this podcast on your social media pages. Let's get this out to more people. Keep kicking ass, driven mofos. Appreciate you. Most people waste their life, and I just don't want you to be one of them.